solar systems and Hey everybody, welcome back to Law of Creation. Today we're looking at the surprising truth behind design in nature. So I'm David, this is Nebula, the physics cat. And Nebula wasn't always a large physics cat, she was once a tiny little physics cat. And it's a little chilly in here, so we've got a fire going and I'm wearing my lab coat, and I understand now why the original mad scientists wore these coats, because maybe their castles or lairs weren't always warm, especially in the wintertime. So we've all heard of Darwinian evolution. That's when the offspring are slightly different than the parents, and that allows some variation as the conditions change in nature, in the Earth's atmosphere. And for better or for worse, these slight changes will result in some organisms being more successful at surviving and reproducing than others. And so those will go on with those new traits. But that isn't the only place in the universe where we see this design of nature. Before there were living things, planetary systems evolved. There's tectonic plates, there's weather systems, there's the water cycle. So we ask if there could be a deeper law behind all of this design that goes beyond the design of life and then what life designs. And this is what we have in ODC, optimally dissipative configuration. It is a more general law that applies not only to life and nature, but also to how the Big Bang creates all of these galaxies, and all these galaxies create nebulae and stars, and around these stars are planets that form, and within some of these planets more complex systems like weather patterns and tectonic plates. And those tectonic plates are really giant convection cells like we see when we start boiling water on our stovetop. So today we're going to go a little bit deeper into how Darwinian evolution relates to maybe the creation or even evolution of other things in the universe other than life. And as we explore ODC, optimally dissipative configuration, we use those specific words because they apply not only to Darwinian evolution, but to also how those original building blocks of life became life. Those amino acids in the primordial earth, how did we go from non-life to life? And this is a question we've never let go of, and today we have real answers. So we'll take a little walk to our chalkboard here. And today we actually have a formula for this ODC, optimally dissipative configuration, but let's bring our attention over here to these three wheels. So here, ODC, optimally dissipative configuration, is the most general acronym we could use to define not only Darwinian evolution, but any kind of creation that, let's say, humans make, or galaxies make, or stars make. And in the context of Darwinian evolution, for example, optimally might mean the best at surviving and reproducing. So the optimally, the greatest, the top, that's how nature would select for the best at surviving and reproducing. So dissipative in this case might mean the most productive, the most successful, the most adaptive, whatever quality we want to give to the configuration, which includes, again, not just organism, but a configuration could be a strategy, a design, an idea, a tool, including non-living things. And yes, we do have a formula for it today. So here's the Law of Creation official formula. So we say that the final configuration, whether it's something we're designing, or Nebula the physics cat here, or galaxies, or weather systems, that final configuration will be determined by the argument of the maximum, which is a fancy physics term, which means that we will select, as humans, the best design of a bridge. We will select the best design of a car. In Darwinian evolution, it will select the most successful organism in that particular environment. And with ODC, we can relate that then to the galaxy and solar systems, because what happens inside the solar system, planets emerge, and that's to help dissipate whatever is going on when the star is forming itself. So we will choose the argument of the maximum, the best of the best, that's the optimally part, of all the possible configurations, whether it's all of the bridges that have ever been designed, or the possible variations of an organism, with the starting point being the genetic system of its parents, or in primordial earth, where all of the original elements and building blocks of life are kind of like mishmashed in that primordial soup, and what the universe selects for in that case, within all of those new gradients that are forming in the primordial earth. So you've got all these waves and currents and tectonic plates and tornadoes and hurricanes and radiation from the sun, which create gradients of non-equilibrium. And entropy wants things to get back to equilibrium. So if you think about trying to keep your house warm in the winter, that heat wants to escape to where it's colder. In the summer, that heat wants to enter your home when you're trying to keep it cooler. And so that's a good example of how entropy wants to reach equilibrium. You can feel that heat. You can feel how, oh yes, in the winter I do try to keep my house warm, and how come I can't just put one log in the fireplace and that should heat for the whole winter, right? Well, no, because that heat will dissipate out into where it's colder. So you already know about entropy. But that's not all, because now we have a simulator that shows kind of what happens in primordial Earth with all the building blocks and elements that are available to us. And we call this the atomizer. So here we've got a bunch of different colored ping pong balls. Some of them have magnets on them. We got little sticks and stuff. And when we're at equilibrium, nothing as much is happening. But what happens in the primordial Earth is that we are at a far from equilibrium thermodynamics, which means that there's a lot of things happening in primordial Earth. Again, with the waves and the tectonic plates and the weather systems and the water cycle and all of these elements and these hydrothermal vents in the middle of the ocean, where a lot of us think that maybe that's where the original precursors of life began. So now we're going to agitate or apply a driving force to this system. And what's going to happen is that it will give all of these elements and primordial building blocks of life a chance to reconfigure into configurations that are more dissipative than they were without the driving force. So let's see what we can do here. It's alive, am I right? Now, we couldn't have designed or intended for this final configuration to happen. And that's an important point when we look at the beauty of nature and the intricate design of us, to think that somehow that final configuration was intended. And this is where we might come into conflict with many belief systems, where we look at the final configuration and without much more knowledge, we're going to say that this is the configuration that our gods intended on, and then create a story around it. That's kind of like putting the horse before the cart. Nope. That's kind of like putting the cart before the horse, where the truth is actually the other way around. And we know this today because, for example, humans and dinosaurs have a common ancestor called Luca, our longest universal common ancestor from about 4 billion years ago. And all new configurations of life emerged or evolved from that through Darwinian evolution. So let's see what we've created here, shall we? I see an interesting configuration here. And we'll select this one also. So we're in primordial Earth, and these things are kind of rolling around, doing absolutely nothing, but they're interesting new configurations. But oh no, look, we have a new gradient appearing here from tectonic plates or winds or waves or the radiation from the sun. And somehow, at just the right time, they would configure and maybe become a catalyst that allows some of those gradients to be homogenized or equalized in a way that it wasn't able to before. So although seemingly by accident, because we get to experiment with all these new configurations in primordial Earth, that a new configuration might occur that allows a new pathway to create a new optimally dissipative configuration. Let me know what you think. Is this too much? Am I too slow? Is this too obvious? Is this too outrageous? Because if it is too outrageous, then I've got a very special corner for us to discuss that in, called the Galileo Corner with Nebula. This is her favorite spot because we have all sorts of fun toys and tools and a big dinosaur head. So what happens is that a few hundred years ago, we were sure that the Earth was the center of the universe because we had no other reason to think otherwise. And that's what our belief systems told us. But then scientists and astronomers come around with a telescope and they discover that we're actually one of many planets around one star, and there are many stars. And so we are not the center of the universe anymore. And that may not always be easy for the prevailing belief systems of the times to accept. But eventually we get over it. And it turns out that those civilizations, including belief systems that adapt to the new truths, to the new science, are better able to survive and reproduce than those that do not. And so the truth and the science always wins eventually. So in a similar way, when we talk about ODC, optimally dissipative configuration, being a more general law of which Darwinian evolution is one type of, and by the way, Darwinian evolution wasn't easily accepted either because it implied that the Earth was a lot older than what we thought, and that animals weren't just put on Earth as their final configuration, but indeed they evolved over billions and billions of years. And it's fun, we're having a good time, and eventually the belief systems has to conform to the new truth because those civilizations that accept, adopt, and use that new science are better able to survive and reproduce in the real world. Ooh, look at that one, it's Jupiter. Ooh, look at that. That's not Pluto, because we don't have Pluto anymore. Ooh, look at that one. Ooh, that's a fun one. So thanks for joining us on this deeper look at the design in nature, in how that universal design law of ODC, optimally dissipative configuration, actually applies not only to Darwinian evolution, but also to the creation of stars within galaxies and planets within solar systems. And let me know what you think. Is this too much, too little, more cat, less cat? Yeah, you guys are just here for her, aren't you? They're just here for you. Am I right? So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next time on Law of Creation. Ooh, look at that one. Ooh, look at that one. Ooh, that's Earth. I think that's Jupiter. Ooh, look at that one.